The forgotten teachings of chaos magic. Now, such a statement may seem outlandish or outrageous. Look on YouTube or on the internet today, and you'll find people talking about sigil magic, which is a type of magic designed to make one's desires come to fruition through the use of symbols or a type of symbol or a type of sign. Or you'll find people talking about experimental magic and mixing and matching different traditions together, voodoo and Gnostic Christianity and Hinduism and Kabbalah and so on. Or you'll find people making little jokes about magic, perhaps referencing Harry Potter, a children's novel after all. It can all seem incredibly trivial, but that is not the essence of chaos magic, at least as it was conceived, I would suggest. And the more interesting aspects, the more challenging aspects, the more existential aspects have been forgotten. Now, chaos magic was conceived during the 1970s in Great Britain. And that was a time of degeneration and decline and collapse in that society. And to a degree that Americans probably aren't aware, or younger British people probably aren't aware. And there were many things happening, but most importantly for the spirit of that time, there were mass strikes. The trash collectors were on strike, so you had trash piled everywhere. The teachers were on strike, the miners were on strike, and people would go from one striking place to another. And the fire department was also on strike, and so you had to have the army come out and with the green fire trucks and try and put out fires, which of course is not going to be as effective as the actual fire department. So it was a society that was visibly in decline. And another aspect that may have been forgotten is that there were frequent blackouts during the 1970s when apartments or entire streets or entire neighborhoods were plunged into darkness at no notice whatsoever. And so there was a palpable feeling during that time of decline and degeneration. And if you haven't seen it, I would recommend you check out Derek Jarman's movie Jubilee. The first 5 minutes will give a good illustration of just what that society was like. Punks, violence, degeneration, hopelessness. Now, chaos magic has come to be seen as this sort of pure experimentation, drawing in everything. But during the 1970s, it was, of course, a response to this society which seemed to be grinding to a halt and coming to an end. And of course, behind all of these manifestations of decline is the loss of belief and the loss of faith in the traditional religion, and perhaps in the establishment as well. The traditional religion being Protestant Christianity at that time, and for several hundred years before that, of course. Now, as I say, the more interesting elements of early chaos magic, or the embryonic stages of chaos magic, have been forgotten. Now, leaving aside the odd, strange little classic text here and there, the founding texts of chaos magic are really Liber Null and Psychonaut by Peter J. Carroll. And in Liber Null, for example, we have chapters on the chaos sphere, the millennium, the aeons, which would be equivalent to the Hindu notion of the yugas. And all of this has been largely, or if not entirely, forgotten. Now, in regard to the aeons, which I'll probably talk more about at another time, but briefly, Peter J. Carroll sees the aeons developing through, or the aeons or great ages, we could say. So developing through these aeons or great ages of shamanism, paganism, monotheism, and then the fourth great age or aeon being that of atheism, which he claimed at that time we were still in. And atheism itself suggests this sort of lack of belief, this sort of Nietzschean nihilism. God is dead and we have killed him, and we have to live with the consequences of the death of God, which is of course not easy. Now, Carroll regards us as being on the threshold of a new aeon, and the idea of this experimental chaos magic is really to put ideas or seeds of ideas out there that would later blossom into some kind of belief system later on that people could almost cling on to, perhaps, or almost like a life raft. But in Liber and Psychonaut, he has this to say about the current times that we are living in. And again, it is one of collapse and decline. He says, quote, "Fixed ideas about the essential spirit or nature of man will be completely abandoned. Drugs, obscure sexualities, faddism, strange entertainments, and material sensationalism are a preliminary groping towards this end. The end being the abandonment of fixed ideas about the essential human nature." And he says also, well, what is our response to this? In essence, the chaos magic is a response to this. But he says again, quote, "The magical life demands the abandonment of comfort, conventionality, security, and safety. For competition, combat, extremes, and adversity are needed to produce higher resolutions and personal evolution," unquote. So we must face this time of lack of belief or disbelief, or in which the fixed nature of man is being eroded and dissolved, and all these strange subcultural manifestations are appearing and taking over what once was. And we must face it not through comfort, not even through doing sigil magic in our apartment or whatever it may be. These are almost incidental. I think the magic is almost incidental to the philosophy of the book. But instead we must face it through abandoning comfort and having the bravery or the courage to go out into the world and face this sort of nihilistic situation that we are in, and to put ourselves into situations where we ourselves will be tested and can push ourselves to the limits and beyond the limits of ourselves to discover, in fact, who we are or can be. Now, this is a very different view of chaos magic, of course, and I've just been looking back after many years of not reading Liber and Psychonaut, and find this sort of essential aspect, this philosophy behind it, to be maybe more interesting, and certainly more interesting than what we see on the net today represented as chaos magic. And I think that is worth considering. But again, I'll be making more videos on spirituality, mysticism, and perhaps all kinds of magical and esoteric traditions as I go forward. So check back. Also, you can check out my website, angelmillar.com, Millar being Millar. So thanks very much. I'll see you soon.